Welcome everyone to this Flex webinar, our continuing webinar series. I am your host, Markus Merritt. Today, we are going to talk about suggestions and advanced packages. Okay? And I wanted to speak really briefly about why I specifically wanted to cover this topic. Now, part of that is because it's kind of a continuation or building on the previous topic of containers and packages. But there's also another more specific thing. So during these unprecedented times and during these struggles, a industry advisor and leader, Tom Stimson with the Stimson Group, has been doing a webinar called The Show Will Go On Business Survival Series. Every week, he's done it 8 or 9 weeks so far. I'm sure some of you are already taking part of this, already listening in. If not, I highly advise that you do. He has really great information. It is free. I've been trying to watch these, listen in on these, both for advice on what I can do, but also for advice on what I can then share with our customers at Flex to kind of continue to help. And there's a specific thing he has talked about in this that I'm hoping that this topic today will help people on specifically. That he's spoken a bit about how as we start to get the industry coming back, as events start to come up, things will be still slow going. It's not going to just be an on and off switch, right away. It's going to be slower. People are going to not be. And so companies are going to need to be much more streamlined and efficient to help to make sure they continue to survive. And so I want to talk about ways to build packages to help that efficiency, to simplify things that way in the way that kind of Tom has explained in some of his discussions on being better to show, to quickly quote what you need to the customer and to pull and prep to that customer without having to do a lot of time and customization and things. So that's specifically one of the things I want to make sure to cover today. One of the great things for today, just want to make sure, is that everything we will talk about today I can cover in Flex 5. This is actually features that are very strong and robust in Flex 5 and even better than in Flex 4. So that's really great to work with that. So the first thing we have to talk about is suggestions. Suggestions are a very powerful tool to be able to control what happens with items and kind of options in them. Okay, but I'm going to talk to them specifically about advanced packages today. But for suggestions, we can go to our drop menu, inventory, and then our suggestion types. Okay, so this is the list. There's in a baseline system, these 4 exist, and I've added a few other in prep for this webinar today. Okay. When we're working with suggestions, there's 3 main settings we have to understand with each new suggestion type. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new suggestion for this example. But first, we just want to talk about these 3 main settings. So the 3 main settings is required, yes or no. When multiple items are put into a suggestion, they will create a pop-up window that will then say, hey, here's some items that are suggested. If you say they're required yes on this suggestion type, it says the person cannot go forward without selecting at least one item from this tab. If you have a bunch of different items, if let's say we use it on the idea of power cable and you have different lengths, it doesn't say they have to pick the right thing. They just can't skip it completely. They've got to pick something. Okay, that's all the thing that's required. Use it or don't use it as you decide. After that is included in price. Also just yes or no. For this, it's saying, is this item, when added, part of the price of the initial item, as in it's not going to add any additional cost to the customer, any additional price, or is this item supposed to add additional cost? Okay, this is in the idea of this an accessory. Is this for a speaker and this is a mounting bracket that you don't charge the customer for? There's just 2 or 3 different ways to mount it, and so you want to put those options for yourself to choose, but you charge the customer for the speaker, not the mounting accessory. Or is this more like console and you want to say, oh, there's some options for these extra processing, but if I add them, the customer has to pay for those. Okay, that's kind of that important difference in that. With that, then our third setting is our association type. This is where we set where I'm going to either have it as add as a child, where it's going to be underneath it indented and will collapse inside the child structure, as the next sibling, so it'll just go underneath the item right next to it, wherever you put that initial item, or using the default sorting method. And that's about what current drop mode you're in, if you're currently on auto, insert, or add. Now, if you're on insert or add, it will act very similar to as add as a next sibling. It'll end up just right next to the item, okay? But if you're on use default sorting method and you're on auto, and this item that you pulled in was in a category called audio, but that other item was in a category called rigging, they'll go into two separate subtotals, okay? And that may be what you want to use. There are lots of times we do that. So it's just important to understand what's going to happen. Now, the thing I'm going to actually add here really quick, and you see at the bottom here, is I have some generic suggestion types. This one called contents no charge, where I'm just describing, hey, it's going to be a child and it's included in price, yes. And this one says contents additional charge. As a child, included in price, no, okay? I'm going to add for this one, I'm just going to call sibling additional cost, okay? So we're going to say included in price, no. I'm going to not do required, and I'm going to say add as next sibling. I like to do this because sometimes when you having multiple suggestions on something, you don't always want them to be separated into 2 or 3 different tabs, okay? You may just go, there's only 3 items. I'm okay if all of them live together. And so by using these generic ones, you don't have to create as many separate suggestion types, okay? So that's the one I'm going to create here. But what I want to highlight here is at the top, where I have this one that says speakers, Bobo, mixers, Bobo. Just note this means build a breakout, okay? That's what I have this for, build a breakout, okay? So this is where I'm using the 4th setting that's a pseudo setting, the name, okay? That is where we'll see all 3 of these have the same thing where they say required no, included in price no, add as next sibling, okay? All 3 of those settings are the same, but because they have different names, that's going to create multiple tabs in my suggestion pop-up, giving me somewhat of a multi-tab checklist, okay? And I'm going to show how that works in our first package. So that's the key thing. And it's important to understand that with those couple little tools, you can accomplish a lot with suggestions. Suggestions can be quite powerful, but you have to understand, what do you want to accomplish with this item? How do you want to present the information to your customer of what you're trying to quote to them, okay? So for that, what I'm going to do in this is I'm going to share 4 different ways to do basically the same package using different settings within the suggestion types, okay? So we're going to go to my quote here on the details. And we're going to start with this build a breakout room one, I'm going to call it here. Now, when I open this up, we see that I've actually made the long name called breakout room includes the following, okay? This is a very common current method for people, where this is more like I'm building a checklist or a shopping list potential for my salesperson, okay? So for this, I'm going to go to the suggestions, of which I've intentionally left this blank for now, to build these suggestions on this. One thing real quick I want to highlight is that this item is a virtual model, okay? Virtual model meaning this isn't an actual thing that exists, and it's going to be completely made up of suggestions because we don't have any contents. We don't have the contents tab for it, okay? So it's completely about its suggestions. So for this, I'm actually just going to do audio for this. I'm going to keep this really simple. That's why the rest of them actually just say breakout audio. So for this, I'm going to go to my speakers. And again, I'm going to keep this simple. Normally, if I was building a checklist, maybe I have 2 or 3 different kinds of speakers. Maybe I guess I could just show this. I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to put the option for these VRXs, and I'm going to put the option for K8s in here as speakers. Okay? Then I'm going to go to consoles, and I've got a console. Again, if I was doing this on a real basis, I would put 2 or 3 different consoles in here for some options for my sales guy. I'm going to put some microphone. Again, normally I would have 2 or 3. Maybe I also have a podium mic. Maybe I have a wired mic. Maybe different brands of wireless or different styles. Keeping this a little simple on purpose. And then the one other thing I want to show is that you can also add labor to suggestions. Okay, so I'm going to go to my labor and add a breakout room technician. Okay, so now that I've added this, and again, I would have multiple things, but our list would be a little longer in this. I now need to classify where each of these go as a suggestion type. Okay. One key thing show is that in Flex 5, I can select multiple and I can bulk edit them to say, oh, I want both of these to be in the speakers build a breakout room setting. Okay, I want them to go into that tab. I'm going to do these ones the simple way because I only put one on intentionally. I'm going to put mixers. I'm going to do mics. And then I'm going to put my breakout room under one I called labor. And the specific of this is on this one I said, I want this to use default sorting method, whereas the rest of them are intentionally added as simply. Okay. So now that I have those in there, I can go back to my quote and I can go ahead and quote this. Now I'm on auto here. So by dragging this item, it's going to create an audio subtotal, but you'll see my labor is going to automatically go into a labor subtotal. Okay, so I'm going to go like I'm building one breakout room. And in this, on our theoretical situation, we're doing a room for up to 100 people. Maybe they have 75 or 80. And I go, oh, well, that could be done with 2 of these K8s. And I'm going to use one of this mixer. I'm going to give them 2 wireless microphones, and we're going to say that 1 day of one breakout room as technician is what is required for this, okay, just as our example. So after we've selected those, we're going to go ahead and hit accept and let those file onto our list, okay. So for this, we'll see those went in here. So now that we have this saying the breakout room includes the following, and we have a list of our parts. Now, yes, I haven't put cable and other accessories that we would need, keeping this simple just to explain the process on this, okay? And each of these items have added their own in here, okay? So with this, we would now have the ability, so the customer is going to see a fairly basic, hey, breakout room includes the following. I've got 2 powered speakers. I've got 1 mixer. I've got 2 mics. We'd have some other accessories. And we've got this 1 technician over here in a separate subtotal. And we've got our grand total, okay? This is a very common way to do it. The way we do it this way, the key in this is this gives us a lot more customization options, but it's less time efficient. If we have, again, think of if every time I've got 4 speakers, 5 mixers, 3 different mic options, I'm picking and choosing every single time. And we feel like that customization is a value to the customer, but the customer most of the time doesn't know what they want or need anyway. That's why they're coming to you. And so you can work towards just deciding what's the right thing and building your package to be more quick and automatic to save yourself time. Okay. Now, there still is nothing wrong with doing this, but on the instructions of Tom giving, I'm highly suggesting we look at kind of some of these other options of other ways to do it. Okay. So in this, and I'm actually going to change how I'm doing this. So what I'm going to do really quick now is I'm going to go ahead and kick out a report for this to see how the customer would see this, because I want to show the different looks of between these 4 different ways I'm going to do this. Okay. So we're going to kick this out and see here again. So we're seeing, hey, 1 breakout room includes the following. We've got our parts and pieces. We've got our technician. All comes to the same grand total. Okay. So now we're going to go back here and I'm going to clear this. We're going to delete the lines. And we're going to show the second way to do it. This is a way where I've pre-decided that if they have a number that says is going to be up to 100 people, okay? Somewhere in the 50 to 100 range people. For audio, I'm just going to pre-decide that I want 2 of those K8s, 1 of that 1402, 2 microphones, okay? Now, occasionally you go, well, but I have these other speakers or these other microphones. You can do those switches internally. Again, for a lot of customers, they don't know the difference, okay? You're just figuring the fastest, easiest way to communicate what you want to do to them, okay? So what we're going to do this way is this one is where we still want the details, but we're going to have it automatically do the package, okay? So in this, one note here, this one now is called breakout room audio for up to 100 attendees, includes ... and it is still a virtual model. It is still 100% suggestion built. What we're going to do with it this time is we're going to go to our suggestions, and I've already added those same suggestions here, but I haven't classified them yet. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to select all of them and bulk edit. And I'm going to both say, I want these to all be auto included, and I want them to all be that newest one I created, my sibling additional cost. Okay, we're going to say update. So they're all in one thing, and they're all going to automatically include. And what that just means is it's going to get rid of the time of picking and choosing our list. But otherwise, it should land basically the same. Now, in this one, though, technically the breakout room is going to be different there. So let's do this. I'm going to actually change this. I'm going to change this guy back to the labor Bobo, but we're still going to leave him as auto included. So this will actually look identical, but my effort, when I go to quote it, I just pull it, the items show up, and I'm done. Okay, so I've pre-decided what my package is, what my kit is, and I've made it so the sales guy can just go grab it and drag it on. Now, you say, well, but what if it's for a different thing? My other option gave me the option to, when I was a room for 250, say I needed 4 speakers or I needed 6 speakers. Well, what you do for that is you pre-build those other package levels, so you have the one for 100, the one for 200 or 250, the one for whatever kind of break points you want to have. So again, your salesperson at that point just has to go, oh, that's what you want? Great. Grab the package, drag it on there, send the quote off. You're done. Okay. That's kind of the option there. So we're going to go ahead and print this report really quick. To see our comparison. And so we see again that other than I slightly changed the name where I was saying, hey, this is room, we said this is audio for 100 attendees because I pre-decided, whereas this one, it was variable. Other than that, nothing has changed on this. It's basically the same information, okay? Now, the next option in this that I want to talk about is instead by doing this as more of focusing on selling a service, okay? That's a thing that Tom talks about in his, that you're selling a service and you can, especially after these situations, be able to tell customers, this is one of the best times to be able to say, hey, we've had to adjust the way we do business and I don't show details anymore. I'm selling a service. I'm selling what I'm providing for you, okay? So for this, we are going to go to this breakout audio, no details, okay? For this, instead, I've made this one. It's still here. Now, what we've actually done, instead of saying includes, we've changed it to say breakout room audio for up to 100 attendees with up to 2 wireless microphones. Note on that, that's again a thing that I got from Tom. Tom really likes on that up to. You know, if you're even doing just a full, band thing, you're saying, arena PA with up to 8 mixes and, up to blah, blah, blah. You can use that to just help to say, hey, I don't care if you want 6 or 5 or 4. The package is up to 8. It's up to 8 mixes. That's what we're providing for you, okay? So you can just decide. I think generally this size of room should have 2 wireless microphones. So I'm going to say up to 2 wireless microphones. If you say 1, go great. That's included. You're taken care of. That's provided in the package, okay? So we have that there. And what I've done on this one is I've changed it to a virtual package. So now we have the model contents, okay? Now, by the model contents, that gives us this contents tab. Now, the one thing that's important to understand, first is in the Contents tab, we can't put labor or services in the Contents tab. So that labor position, we still have to put as a suggestion that is set as auto-included. Okay. Now, this time, I still want it to be Contents No Charge because it's part of my package that I'm selling as a service, okay? That baseline ever. Now, it's important to note that if for some reason their schedule is long and you need extra labor, you put that out separate as, oh, this is overtime labor, this is extra, whatever. You don't have to just suddenly eat overtime because you're selling as a package. You're just saying the baseline labor is part of the initial package, okay? The key thing is, being this, I could put all of these items in as suggestions that say auto include yes and contents no charge, and they will show up on the quote identically. The only difference is Flex has an ability to look at this and try to calculate availability for you. In suggestions, it will never calculate that even when the items are set as auto include yes. And so that's the only difference and the thing you have to kind of consider. Maybe you want it to work that way, maybe you don't, okay? So in here, we're going to go back to quote now. We're going to clear this way of doing it. And now we're going to go ahead and quote this guy. And we'll see that we've got all the items on here again. But when we go and print our report for our customer, we'll see they get a very simple information of one line, breakout room audio for 100 attendees with up to 2 wireless microphones. That's all they're getting, okay? You're selling a service, a packaged thing. What is taken care of doesn't really matter. You've made a promise to them to make it work and to make it taken care of. They've made an agreement to pay what you've asked for that package, okay? Now, one important thing with this, though, is by doing it this way, we've made it so that I put all the price in the actual package itself, and all of the items are free, okay? We've just put the package up here, okay? This is more like our screen package that we showed where we decided that way, okay? It still can work. We did the math ahead of time and it made it work where it's the same math, it's the same cost. It's just that we've decided to package everything there and track it as how many of these packages have we sold? How many of this service have we sold? That's where we're tracking our specific our revenue, okay? But maybe either for you want better tracking on how much you're making on separate items, or you're worried about maybe taxing. A lot of places in the US, you need to charge tax on the gear, but not on the labor. This is trying to get around this. You're worried the IRS or some other tax agency is going to be more upset at that. So I want to show a different way to do this, but the money separated out for that, okay? For that, we have our fourth one here where we say the breakout audio for 100 price mute is what I called this, okay? Now, if you had just decided how it was going to work, you wouldn't need to name it that way, but I did that for my division here. Now, on this, we went back to being a virtual model. So we're going to be 100% in the suggestions, okay? And what we've done instead is we've set it to be auto include, but we've said they're contents additional cost, okay? They're all contents, they're all children, but they're actually going to add their own cost, okay? So the pricing on this item is 0, okay? So we'll go back here to our original thing. We'll clear this one more time. And delete these lines. We're going to add this guy. Now again, I've built this so this is auto include. So it's one drag and drop and it's taken care of, okay? So for this one, we see that we have the same price, but each of these items here are adding their own price. The key with this one is you have to be careful, because if I run the report the same way here at this point, I run this Flex default report, it's going to say this package is $0, adding to a total of $935, and the customer is going to be very confused. Okay, so we have to be careful. For this, we have to do one of two things. We have to either go in and price mute this section so that we don't show them the line item details. They don't see that the package itself is zero. They just see that the subtotal is the total cost. It's then communicating the same information. Or the other thing we can do, if we know we're going to work this way, we can pre-decide to use a report that doesn't print those details ever. So you don't have to manually price mute, okay? In everyone's system, an example of that is this quote with subtotals look B. I made this updated one, flex quote with subtotals that I'm going to use. So I don't have it price muted, but I'm going to go ahead and generate this report. And we'll see here again that I've said breakout room audio for up to 100 attendees. And then I've got no information here, but they see that, oh, my audio for that is 935. Okay, so I'm still communicating. We're going to close this version of it. I'm still communicating the same total as here. They just don't see per that package. They only see for the entire area. Okay, and so you just have to pick and choose between this, what works best for helping you, what works best to communicate this information. But it's definitely really good on that idea of selling the service, communicating the core of what they're getting, and then leaving the rest as a commitment of, hey, you're taken care of. We'll take care of it. That's why you're hiring us. We're the professionals. Okay. So now obviously this works with lots of other packages, lots of other things. It doesn't just about this. You just have to kind of extrapolate that information out to your organization itself, what you're doing, whether it's you're providing for a band package, whether you're providing, video, all of those same things. It's just about using the different settings within those suggestions to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And that's why it's important to always remember, think toward that end goal. Where are you trying to get to? And then focus on